Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thanks for joining us today for our cybersecurity mentoring group, the platform where we share, we learn, and we connect with professionals. And if we are meeting for the first time, Happy New Year, and thanks for joining us today. Again, this platform, what we do is to invite experienced professionals to come speak to us on a special topic in cybersecurity. Particularly, we try to help people who are trying to chart a path in cybersecurity to find the exact pathway to get into cybersecurity. So if you are on that journey looking for how to get your first role or how to get a cyber role, you are on the right platform. And we've invited a professional today, experienced professional, to come share with us something like a roadmap that you can use to chart your path into cybersecurity. Before we speak to our guests, I want to just go through some information. So yeah, Happy New Year. And so last year we spoke to 26 professionals on this platform, and they cut across professionals from different sectors and with different spread of experience. So if it is something you are interested in picking up, you can check on our YouTube channel and you will find a topic that will be of interest to you. And if you like to get more information or you want to be alerted when we put up information, you can then subscribe. But the platform contains a lot of information on how to either navigate your path into cybersecurity or how to grow in cybersecurity. Secondly, we also had some programs last year. From time to time, we host some professionals to take us through some week-long programs. And in 2025, we had Security Operations Centers. It was about 2 months, 18 classes. And then we did Beginner Cybersecurity Masterclass for another 2 months. Then the last one was Identity and Access Management. These courses, especially the first and the last, were identified as the top cybersecurity jobs in 2024. And we thought that we can share this for people who want to get more skills that is relevant to what the labor market is asking for. Beginner Cybersecurity Masterclass was a course we introduced to help people who want to start their journey in cybersecurity. Right now, we are running the one for 2026. Today is our 4th class, and we've had a good time. So what we are trying to do is to make sure that we lay the right foundation for people to then start that journey and diversify into whatever areas that they find interesting. Next is, so yeah, this is the Cybersecurity Beginners Masterclass that we are currently undergoing. So today we had our 4th class and we have 4 more classes to go. Thursdays and Saturdays are when the classes hold. All right, I think there's another one slide more. Yeah, last week we invited Krishna, who shared with us a plan for 2026. And if you couldn't make it, you can check up the channel and you will find that session. In February, we are having a domain-specific training coming up. I think by next week, we will have the call for applicants go out for people who are interested to join for another 1 month training that we'll be having. This training come at no cost to the candidates, all for the kindness of our facilitator, because they are doing this as a contribution to the cybersecurity community. So when we put it out, and if it is something that you think you have the basic requirement for, because it's a domain-specific training, there are some foundational expectations that we hope that people can meet before they can join. And if it is something that you think you are interested in, please sign up and let's go again on another 1 month learning. Today we are talking about practical steps to transition to cyber role. And I have invited Chibuzo. So Chibuzo, unfortunately, we didn't get to meet where we work. I worked in my former place. I left and Chibuzo came. So, but I was looking for someone who I think would be able to help guide people who have been on that journey to getting into cyber, possibly to provide us some specific practical steps that they can follow to transition to a cyber role. And I reached out to Chibuzo. In fact, I reached out to Chibuzo last year, and I said that this year we would like to have him on board. And well, I want to thank you, Chibuzo, for creating time for us on the weekend, especially when Nigeria is playing their third place match. Thank you for sacrificing and also for contributing to the community. I think you can, I have unmuted, sorry, I've given you a co-hosting right. I think you can take over and then introduce yourself, and then let's have the session and lots of information that we will want to learn from you today.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Thank you very much for having me. I'm really happy and excited to be here and also to share. I really want to appreciate the opportunity to share, Wally. I mean, it's something I've always loved to do, to give back, really, because there are many things you learn in your pathway that actually could help somebody else that is coming into that same, domain to be able to, get a head start. And this is an opportunity for me to share. And I hope by, the end of this particular session, we'll go back, we rejuvenated, we'll go back with, fired up, to take, our position in the roles that we've decided to go forward with. Now, I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Chibuzo Arukwe, just like you rightly said. I'm the head of Information Systems Control, InterSwitch, Nigeria, and Pan Africa. Yeah. So basically, I just want to start by saying something. Now, let me start with a bit of context, because my journey is very similar to what many people here, are considering. My first degree was actually in estate management. I'm sure somebody will be laughing there, yeah. And not IT, really. But along the way, I developed a strong interest in technology. I started with Oracle DBA training and certification, right? I was so, curious about it, went into it, got my hands dirty, developed very strong interest, in knowing more. I started with, that training, and then I made, the move into the banking industry, right? But during that training process, I went into consulting. I had my time trained a lot of bank staff on Oracle DB, Enterprise Manager, and all those things, SQL and all. And it was quite, it was interesting for me because it was something I was so excited about. And yeah, and then from there, when I eventually joined the bank, I didn't move straight into cybersecurity. I spent, some time in operations and an IT support. That was Fidelity Bank, and then at the time, it wasn't because I lacked technical ability, but because I was trying to understand how organizations work from inside process, systems pressure, pressures, and then risk exposure and all that bit, right? Now, during that period, several of my colleagues actually asked, "What are you doing in operations?" My skill sets, IT, I should be better off in IT. In the security space, because my technical background was visible. Remember, I read estate, studied estate management. When I decided to make that switch into cybersecurity, I was deliberate about it. Now, please note some of the things I'm saying because it will also help you to understand some of the things I'm going to say now during the course of this particular session. I didn't just rely on interest. I prepared. I spent time learning independently through all online sources. YouTube was my best friend, and I had a lot of cybersecurity, technical walkthrough trainings and all those things, security plus and that. And practicing hands-on labs so that, when opportunity came, I would be able to take it. So I set up a lab. I'll talk about that much later. Now, when I eventually transitioned into cybersecurity at Fidelity Bank, that preparation showed, I integrated quickly, contributed amongst almost immediately, really. And then feedback was received. Feedback I received was essentially that I was doing very, very well, and why they asked me a question, why were you in operations in the first place? And all that. I was about the only person from operations that was taken into cybersecurity. It took a lot of preparation. It's as if once the opportunity just came, I was able to, just get myself, I was able to just slot in right away. I've worked across banking, fintech, infrastructures, payment platforms, cloud services, consulting. This has exposed me to a whole lot of ups and also downs as well, because of that time in my career where I got some challenges and I was able to surmount them. But yes, and then I picked up from that part and then built the required skills, prepared myself, before opportunities came. My certifications and education supported that journey. Now remember that I didn't replace my certifications with experience. Experience was what I built up first, and then I started working on my certifications. I remember that year prior to COVID-19, I told some years before COVID-19, I did some research, and in the next 5 years, it was going to be cybersecurity and cybersecurity all the way. Then I was we're already in infrastructure, IT security. And then what I started doing, I started writing certifications. Now, I already built experience in the role, but I started writing certifications relevant to that role so that once opportunity was able to come, I was able to take it. I had almost 7 interviews in 1 year, with some of them with offer letter, which I eventually turned down. I'm only trying to make us understand that opportunity will always meet you when you are prepared for it. Everything in this section is based on what I've seen, what I've worked on, organizations that I've worked in, constraints and all that. And I'm sure by the time we're done with this particular session, we'll learn a lot of things, from what I've actually been part of. I've worked in different roles: identity and access management, information systems control, SOC analyst, threat intelligence, vulnerability management, incident response. I've also been a security operations manager. So I worked through Fidelity Bank, First Bank, and currently I'm in InterSwitch. So now we're going to be looking at practical steps to transition into cybersecurity role. But before I say anything, today I would like to. I know a lot of people here, hear about cybersecurity from social media, boot camps and certifications, marketing, and all those, platforms. And it can be really confusing when you start. This session is, for me, designed to cut through that noise. Over the next 40 minutes, I want you to walk away with clarity. Clarity on whether cybersecurity is the right move for you. Clarity on which entry path, what makes sense, you really want to know all that. Yeah. And then also, this will apply to whether you are a student transitioning from non-IT background, already working in IT, or targeted opportunities beyond your current location. And I'll deliberate about sharing not just what works, but also the mistakes I've seen people make when they rush, process, and what eventually happens to them. Now, the goal is simple. When you leave this session, you should be able to ask yourself one question. Where do I begin? You should be able to ask, how do I execute my plan? To get there, we need to first ask honestly about, why cybersecurity in the first place? And just, importantly, what is realistic, what to realistically expect. One of the major challenges I've seen today with a lot of, people that are transitioning is the question I want to ask today, right? In one word, I just want you to drop it on the chat. What best describes where you are right now? Students, entry level, wherever you are in, career switcher, practitioner, whatever you're doing right now, best describes what best describes where you are right now? Just drop it in a word. I want to see it on the chat. What best describes where you are right now? What best describes where you are right now? I want to just hear from you. What best describes where you are right now in your career phase? What describes it? So while that is going on, I would just want to continue so that I can make sure we are maximizing the available time we have. So just drop it in the chat where you are right now. Now, the next thing I want to find out is why cybersecurity and what do we expect from this particular session? Cybersecurity is often discussed as an opportunity, and it is, but it is something that many people always look at from the angle of so it's one is like as if it's just one domain, so to say, right? And it is rarely discussed in honest way. Now, this next session is about two things. One, why so many people are drawn to cybersecurity and what day-to-day reality actually looks like once you are in. Once you get into cybersecurity, what is your day-to-day? If you understand the path properly, you will make much better decisions about where to start and what to focus on. The major problem I've seen over time with people that want to come to the cybersecurity spaces, they just see the whole domain as one blueprint and they start pursuing everything. They jump here, they jump there, and at the end of the day, they get fatigued and overwhelmed, and they're just like, oh, this is not what I want to do. I don't think I want to do this. So let's first talk about why cybersecurity remains a global opportunity, and then we can now move to the next part of that. Yeah. So when we talk about cybersecurity as a global opportunity, it is important to understand that why that demand exists. We should understand that not just that it exists, there is something that is driving it. And that thing is called digital reliance. Everything is built digitally. It is no longer news. It's no longer optional. Organizations are doing IoT and all that thing. Everybody's moving towards data-driven business, right? Running core operations, customer data, payment, infrastructure digitally, and all that. As that dependency grows, you are beginning to see a whole lot of cyber risk. In the last 1 year, within the industry, I think I've seen over 13, between, let me say, sometime July or thereabout, over 13 major incidents that are all data-driven, right? And this is something that you will continue to see. And this is really why we need professionals, right? As that dependency grows, so does exposure also grow, right? And if you also understand this, you will see why it's important to be part of this. It's so exciting. It's something that I'm very enthusiastic about. I love this job. I keep telling people this is what I say. I love this job because I'm living my best life doing what I love doing, and that's what drives sustain investments in cybersecurity talent across regions. You can't be somebody that is interested that is not inquisitive, and I'll talk about that much later. The second point is that cybersecurity is not one job, just like I said earlier. There are very different career domains. There is SOC operations, there's cloud security, there's governance, there's compliance. There's just a whole lot of moving parts. There's also the on-prem, we talk about structures. You see some organizations having on-prem, right? They have their production environment within their it's not in a cloud space, right? It is within they have somewhere within their organization where they just have those structures sitting, like their data center and all that bit sitting there, or their disaster recovery environment and all those things. I don't want to go too technical because I just want to carry you along. So there are different environments. So it's not just one job. You have different roles. You have security operations analyst. You have the GRC role, that is basically on governance and risk and compliance and all that bit. And you also have analytics. Now, I've noticed that recently from my career, I discovered that I had to add a lot of analytics to what I do, because we are moving towards a time where you now have to use AI to improve what you're doing. You discover that job roles now demand that I'm not just a cybersecurity professional, but I also have data analytics as well. So I'm able to use data analytics to, be able to do machine learning and all those kind of things. I'm able to build, automate processes to reduce man hour and all that bit. You discover that a lot of organizations are moving towards fewer staffs with better AI, driven by AI. And if you are not somebody that's thinking like that, you might just be whisked away, right? So cybersecurity many, many years ago, maybe was not really reliant on AI, but right now, I can tell you that a lot of things are driven by artificial intelligence and machine learning. And if you are not also looking at that bit, again, that is another area that is so interesting, and you might want to take a look. But after the class, I'm sure you'll be able to have some perspective. You don't need to fit you don't need to fit a single stereotype to succeed here. You just have to just look at it from how the global work has become. Threats don't respect borders, so security teams increasingly operate from cross country, different geographical zones and all that bit. Now, what has been done? That has opened up remote work. COVID-19 changed everything in Nigeria. A lot of people left this country, professionals, and a lot of them were reborn. A lot of people had to reinvent themselves. It just basically blew the whole, marketplace open and increased competition as well, because obviously you're not just talking about yourself sitting maybe in Canada or UK or wherever you are. You are looking at competition globally in terms of skill set that is needed. But it also means competition is something that we must embrace. Finally, cybersecurity offers structured career progression. And then, as threats evolve, skill sets remain relevant over time. People don't just, enter cybersecurity and stagnate. They just grow deeper and deeper into specialization. There are different roles. You can move into different roles. Identity and access management. You want to go into governance. You want to go into security engineering. You want to go into threat and vulnerability. You want to go into incident response and all that. There are just a lot of roles. So you can't just stagnate, right? And this is important because this is what makes the career very, very interesting. And it brings us to the reality of what this career actually demands. What does it really demand from you and me? What does it demand? That is what we want to see now. Now, we need to understand something. This is one of the most important slides that I want to highlight, and please, I will need your attention. Right? Firstly, cybersecurity is not instant money and not quick fame. You may see stories online about people that switch careers and immediately earn a lot, but those stories usually skip the years of preparation, prior experience, or support behind the scenes. And then if you don't look at that, you'll discover. Just give me a second, please. Just let me just pull out my. Sorry, my battery was running down, so it doesn't.
Yeah, Chibuzo, I don't know whether you are sharing your screen or you would like to share.
All right, did it go off? Sorry, just a second. Let me just check again. All right, yeah, let me check again.
Yeah, I think I haven't seen any slide from your side, but you can check if you are sharing.
I'm sharing now. Can you see my screen?
Okay, let me see. Yeah, I think it's up. Yes, it's up now. It's up now.
Okay.
All right, thank you. You can go on.
Yeah, so I was saying here that yeah. So I was saying here that this is one of the most important slides because the cybersecurity is not instant money and it is not quick fame. You may see stories online about people switching careers and immediately earning a lot, but those stories usually skip the years of preparation, like I said, and certifications alone do not just guarantee those jobs. I've seen a lot of people that, we work together, they had certifications, they were able to even find their way in somehow, and then they were promoted into incompetence. And it should. You don't want to be in that boat, trust me. So, what am I trying to say here? It's important to build experience, build skill set. And that is very, very easy to do once you have the right mindset. And then certifications are very useful, just to put a balance. We may talk about them later, but I've seen people with multiple certificates struggle because they didn't build that experience. They just felt, oh, they were just so curious. I mean, they were so um, all out for just certifications alone. Entry level roles can also comprise of can surprise people a lot because there are things like remote work, shift work, monitoring alerts, investigation, documentation, trivial tasks, and all those kind of things. They are not glamorous, but they are very, very important. Now, this is how people actually improve themselves, learn how the environment actually works, and then how incidents unfold in the real world. Another critical point I must mention here is continuous learning. I must tell you, Wally will also speak here. There is no end to learning. You just have to just continue to learn and learn and learn. Be on top of every single thing you see that has to do with technology because it defines how tomorrow will change your job, how it can affect risk, how it can reclassify the risk that you already think that, oh, everything is fine, right? And I will, maybe throw one or two examples later. And this is not a field where you just learn once and just forget about it. Technologies change, threats evolve, and learnings keep going. If you look for a career where you stop learning after a few years, I can assure you that cybersecurity is not for you. You get frustrated and obviously maybe drop out at some point. So finally, ethical responsibility is very, very critical. You are dealing with people's data. You are dealing with sensitive data. If I'm going to be working for a company in Canada, for instance, they want to be sure that I'm somebody that conducts myself responsibly and ethically when it comes to this profession. You don't want to be someone that is scrupulous, someone that is, dodgy, someone that is malicious. You don't want to be the bad guy. So trust is everything in this field, and once it's broken, it is very difficult to recover. I don't know whether to say this, but I've seen situations where there are some rules that you might not be able to get from some certain countries. That's where we are because of some ethical misconduct that a lot of some people just carry out. So I'm sharing this not to discourage anyone, but to be honest, when people understand this reality early, they make better decisions and prepare properly, and then they last longer in the field. And with the reality in mind, the next question becomes: what mindset and foundations do you actually need to succeed? What is the mindset? What kind of mindset do you want to have? Now that we have looked at the realities of cybersecurity, the next question is: why some people succeed? Why do some people actually even succeed in the field while others struggles or burn out? Like I said earlier, tools change, job titles will change, every technology will keep changing, but the mindset and foundation you build at the beginning tend to determine how far you go. Now, this session is not going to be about certifications or tools yet, but it's about the way you approach learning. How do you approach learning? Problem solving, professional responsibility. That is your mindset. Your mindset, you must bring the right mindset into cybersecurity, and it's going to affect how you learn, how you handle pressure, how you grow when things don't work as expected. At the same time, there are core foundations that, if skipped, will limit your progress, regardless of how many certifications that you collect. So before we talk about entry paths or specific skill sets, let's look at the mindset, and foundational knowledge that you need to have. People who progress from this particular area, it helps them to actually make the right decisions. So what's the mindset you need to adopt? When people ask why cybersecurity feels difficult to break into, the answer is really intelligence. Not because you are not intelligent. It's usually mindset and preparation. That's just the major thing. The first mindset shift is curiosity. In cybersecurity, curiosity isn't about just being nosy or it is about asking how systems work. Why do they fail? Why do controls fail? Oh, I'm seeing a payment system and I'm seeing bad behavior. Why do they have bad behavior? What is the cause of it? Why do people tend to do this? Why are they not doing this? Why is this control failing at this point? So you just have to just be inquisitive. It's about asking, how systems work. If you are not the kind that is inquisitive, cybersecurity might not be for you, really, because what you are doing is to provide assurance, and you will always ask the why question. There will always be a lot of whys. Trust me. Strong security professionals, don't wait for instructions. They explore the system, logs, patterns, behavior, before even problems begin to happen or incidents. So I want to always be on top of everything. I want to know ahead of time that this particular risk or vulnerability, once it crystallizes, it might lead to something. So just I want to close it out on time. I want to get to it and then be able to react to it quicker before the bad guys get to see it. Now, the second thing is persistence. Things will always break. Labs won't work. You read documentation that doesn't even make any sense the first time. That's very, very normal. But progress in this field usually looks slower than people expect because mastery comes from repeated failure. There were stupid questions I used to ask, then when I started off as a database administrator, a DBA, and remember I said I studied estate management, and when I asked those questions, in fact, when I remember those questions now, I laugh at myself. But again, it's a learning curve. I see where I am now, and I'm seeing those questions I asked. I can't ask them again. So you just need to be persistent. So if you feel that way sometimes, it's normal. If you ask a stupid question and somebody's looking at you, what's the best thing? I've had some times when, in my early days in my career, when I was working with KPMG and PwC, and I said something, and instantly I saw the reaction. I knew that this is stupid. But it didn't make me just go to my shell. I went back. I started researching. Okay, I knew it better. So when I came back with a better understanding, and I was able to react to it the right way. So I don't have to just failure. These things are not working, and I just chicken out. No. Now the third thing is often underestimated, which is ethical responsibility, which I highlighted. Security rules involve access to sensitive information. You can't but be somebody that has proper ethical conduct. You must be a professional. You can't afford to just be dodgy or have a malicious intent. You can't. You must have that mindset. It's very important. You need to understand network fundamentals as well. Very, very important. You must have the right fundamentals, strong fundamentals. I will share two experiences. I've helped two people, one that was in IT and the other one that was just in engineering. He's basically geoinformatics and surveying and geoinformatics engineering. That's what he read, and he moved to Canada and he wanted to transition. And I was able to help him to transition. Today, he's working in one of the biggest banks in Canada, and he's doing very, very well. You know, in fact, I was looking at him one day. I was saying, "What are you still doing in Nigeria with all this experience?" I said, "Well, I like what I'm doing, and I'm not just ready to move just yet." So, what am I trying to say here? You just need to get it right, and I will share those experiences because I'm sure it's going to help somebody. You need to be comfortable with Linux and Windows environments. You have to be comfortable with it. Whether you're going to be in GRC, because you'll be doing more of documentation and value compliance and all those kind of things. You need to have some level, not deep experience too, because again, I'll explain that might be needed for a security engineering role, but you need to have high level experience, Linux environment, Windows environment, because these are environments you will be securing, monitoring, and or perhaps troubleshooting, or even providing compliance to management, obviously, right? And you need to have also cloud fundamentals. Many of the organizations that I know abroad actually have most of their hosting on cloud. Many host on-prem, some host a few things on-prem, but most of what you see is on cloud. In Africa, you have more on-prem with cloud, just a bit of cloud, because again, that's comfort in terms of how will I put it now? A lot of people are not yet, they've not fully bought into having to host their entire organization on cloud because they feel, I don't have control over this, I don't have control over that, I don't have control over this, if this server goes down or doesn't go down. Something happened recently in what did that happen? Was that AWS or Azure? And it affected a whole lot of things. A lot of things were affected. And you can imagine outage that you are not in control of. And you need to react to customers and all this kind. So there is this, people are just not sure. So you need to have cloud fundamental experience. You need to understand how does cloud work? What does it mean if I talk about a landing zone, what's the landing zone? What does it mean? What does E3 license mean? E2, what are all these things? You could just research them. They are basically terminologies that speak of licensing for Azure environments. AWS also has its own. You want to understand resources within the Azure environment. You want to understand those basic fundamentals. Where do they keep this data? How is the data encrypted is it encrypted at rest and in transit? Just key things you want to understand because you are thinking security, right? You want to ensure that the organization is able to do business while you are using a Lamborghini and you are driving at top speed. You want to have the best brake possible, and that best brake possible is how you perceive security. Security puts the brake in place to ensure that even if I'm moving at top speed and I need to slam that brake, it's going to ensure that we don't incur any kind of exposure. So you want to have good understanding of how the cloud environments work, how assets, you want to understand things like Kubernetes, containerized environments, NSG, firewall. I don't want to start going into technical things, but these are things that you need to just start having a grip of. Whether you're in GLC or you want to go into a very technical role, it's important to have that understanding. So people who struggle often skip this basics and jump straight into tools or certification. People who progress focus on foundations first, then they're able to build specialization on top of that. So it's very important if you're going to be doing anything, you want to first and foremost have that foundation. Don't miss out on foundation. Once this mindset and foundation are in place, choosing the right entry path becomes much clearer, and then that walks into the next slide, which is identifying your entry path. What is then your entry path? Why do we talk about entry paths? Cybersecurity is a broad field with very, very different roles, responsibilities, and skill sets. Without choosing an entry path, learning quickly becomes scattered and frustrating. I've seen so many people. I'm sure if I ask a question, drop it on the chat, I'm going to get a lot of responses in this regard. You need to have one clear start point. You can't be in identity and access management, security engineering, network security, I'm doing pen testing, I'm doing cyber defense. You can't be in everything at the same time. You'll just get tired. This thing is too much, I'm tired. If I had looked at it from that standpoint, I'm sure I'd have maybe thought of it again and not moved ahead, right? So once that's, first part is clear. Learning becomes focused, progressive, and then becomes measurable, right? So let me just do a quick check here. Have you already thought about which cybersecurity part you're most interested in? Just drop it in the chat. So just type T for technical, G for GRC, or risk and compliance, and then you, if you're unsure, please drop it on the chat so I can just have a feel of what we are interested in. If you have thought of any cybersecurity parts, just drop it in the chat. T for technical, G for GRC, U for unsure. They're looking at that possible. So yeah. Okay. Okay. That's nice. That's nice. That's nice. So one thing I want to say here, some people just try to intimidate you. They'll tell you, if you're doing GRC, you're not, you don't matter. You're not, you don't do it. You're not, that is not where it's supposed to be. Even some CISOs, I must tell you, I've had some CISOs say they're doing security engineering. If you're not in, although again, I have a bias towards some certain things, right? It might be just to make sure that they keep you in that role. Sometimes you want to make a role change from security to IAM, and they say, "Why do you do that? Why are you moving to something that is less technical or GRC?" I know it's people that read accounting that go there. It doesn't. Whatever role you are in, there is nothing like a bad role or every role is so important. In fact, I've seen people that are paid more as GRC, trust me, than even security engineers. Maybe I'll talk about that another time. So I'm already seeing mixed technical interest already, governance interest and some people who are still unsure. That's completely normal. So the goal for the next slide is not to force any decision today, but just to help you make a better informed choice about where to start. All right. So the next thing here is identifying your path. Now that we've talked about mindset and fundamentals, let's make this practical by looking at the main entry path into cybersecurity. Broadly speaking, most people will start in one or two parts. Maybe they will just go to, maybe just even start with pen testing. Some people like dynamic scan, they like static scan, all these kind of things. They like, okay, let me do Kali, let me install Kali, grid and environment, all those things. It's nice, it's okay, right? It doesn't matter where you want to start from, whether you want to even go into GRC, right? Whether it's governance, whatever it is. Neither is better than the other, right? And I said it, I want to reemphasize it, neither is better than the other. They simply have different terms and daily work, different skill sets and all. I've seen people that move faster even in GRC than in technical roles, and they are doing very, very well. Those roles are in very, very, very high demand. You always need a GRC person in a SOC environment, in an InfoSec environment. You always need a GRC person because that's the person that ensures that, ISO 27001 we are compliant. You just want someone that makes sure that he's looking at our book, looking at our security posture, and we're aligning regulatory wise, and then we're also giving confidence to the business that yes, you can do business with us because we are really certified and we're secure. So nothing is bad or better or anything. Just choose your path and be comfortable with it and run with it, right? So, and people who enjoy troubleshooting, understanding, okay, let me even look at the technical part just a bit. So for technical part, I've already highlighted some of these things. You have stock analysis role, you have cloud security, you have pen testing, you have cyber defense. You want to learn how things work. You will see all that maybe a bit later. Are you someone that enjoys maybe you like troubleshooting, understanding how systems behave, and learning by doing often just trying different things. You want to do a scan. You want to understand how packets of data work and all these kind of things. I mean, it's fine. If you're following the technical part, your focus should be one. You want to understand networking. It's very important. Maybe I should just bring this up here. I had someone that called me up and said, "Yeah, this is cybersecurity. I just moved to Canada. I'm stuck. I like this cybersecurity thing, but I don't know where to start." I said, "Okay, fine. What is your background? He's a surveying and geoinformatics engineer, nothing to do with computer. It doesn't even. That's why I say first, you don't even have. You need to understand A plus. So some people might already know what computers, how it works, and all that. So you might not be at that level. But two things are very fundamental. You need to understand networking. So you might want to do a network plus, and you need to also do security plus. You want to understand how Linux environment works. There are different flavors of Linux, so I don't want to even go into that. But if you understand how Linux works, you'll be fine. You want to know how to use bash commands and all these kind of things. How to understand configurations around Linux. You want to use some security tools and then do hands-on lab. That's pretty much fine. So it depends on whatever you want to do. You want to do the GRC part, you want to do it, fine. You want to be an IT risk person, wonderful. You want to be IT compliant, fantastic. It doesn't really matter where you want to be. These roles focus on understanding risk assessment, controls, interpreting standards, ISO, whatever it is, PCI DSS, NIST, whatever it is that is the framework you're looking at. And this part suits people who are more analytical, process-oriented. If you have accounting background, legal, wherever you are, you can be in this role and work perfectly well. And you are comfortable with also documentation, assessment, and stakeholder engagement. In fact, which is very, very, very critical. So GRC basically focuses on less on operating tools and more on policy risk assessment controls. And then governance frameworks. You need to be handy with governance frameworks. And these frameworks, I must tell you, they change from time to time. So you want to be able to know when they change and be able to advise the organization on those changes and see how those changes affect what you're going to do better. How do you improve your security posture and all that? So it's very, very important. Now, here is the most important guidance to choose one path first. Try to learn maybe stock tools, cloud engineering, pen testing, governance. If you try to maybe just jump into all these things I'm mentioning at the same time, you will burn out. You will get tired. You will just not be interested. So you need to just pick one path, focus on it, build skill in that area. Don't look at, if you're always looking at LinkedIn, there is one opportunity here, and then you now want to jump into that space and quickly try to learn. You will not, you need to be focused. If you want to stay with IAM, stay there, learn it, understand it. They are looking for identity and access, identity and access management administrators today. All the roles are sought after. So there is no role that is. So once you can even get into the organization and start in that role, you can now move into other roles. And that's what happened to me and a whole lot of people that in this cybersecurity space. You always move around. There are always opportunities to move and learn more. So once you choose that path, build skill and experience aligned to that path. Build skill and experience aligned to that path. I can't state this more than I have said. You need to build skill and experience. And as you gain that experience, movement between paths becomes much easier because again, once you've gotten a job, you've landed a job as maybe a security operations analyst, you can now say, okay, I think I like the threat and vulnerability department. I need to maybe move to that place. And then you talk about it, and then you're able to move. You're able to do internal sourcing, and then you move to that place and build experience. And then before you know it, you can even move around, network security, and then you build capacity like that. So start somewhere. Very, very important. Very, very important. Now, we're looking at certifications. What do you need to do first, right? I just tried to build some beginner, intermediate to advanced for people to just have a bit of understanding of it. Certifications, like I said, are very, very useful. They provide structure, shared language, and recognition. But what they do not do themselves is to create competence for any hiring manager to see you and accept you. There was an interview process that we handled, and we saw quite a number of people that had a good number of certifications. And while we were doing interviews for over 8, 7, 9 people, we were able to get one person that was able to fit into that role. So it's not all about certification. It's about the experience. So at the beginner level, certifications like Network Plus and Security Plus, the things you need and understand how a network works. How does this thing come together? What is CIDR range? What is subnet? Okay, I'm hearing firewall. I'm hearing what does it mean to be? What is the perimeter? Many of these things are already getting outdated because you have firewall environment is changing. But again, you need to start from those basics. It's very, very right. You need to understand that, right? Like I just mentioned, these are very, very valuable. Those fundamentals are valuable. Whether you are GRC or whatever, you need to understand them. Understand how enough environments work. Go to YouTube. There are just so many. In fact, it's rich with so many trainings that can enrich your understanding. I had there was a time I was working with when I was setting up Curator, and in the process, Curator is a SIEM, right? It's a security, information and events management solution. And while I was trying to understand and learn the solution, I told the guy at the time I was working with from Israel that I needed to know the solution. I asked, so I mean, he taught us at the level where the organization was able to set up and train us. I said, asking for some very, very technical things. I said, hey, this is why I'm pleased. I can't tell you. You know what that did to me? That fired me off. I said, I must learn this solution to the point where I don't even need a vendor. And it happened like that. There was a time we had some months where there was a transition between MDs. So we needed a vendor to take care of some things, and we didn't have a vendor at that time. So I had to fix those things. And how did I fix them? I fixed them with the knowledge I had and community. And I got a recommendation for that. It was a very big achievement for me at that time for a space of 4 or 5 months. So trust me, you can actually build competence from, many of these platforms. YouTube, a lot of things you learn, you see what people have solved. You might think what you are trying to solve is something that someone has not done before. A lot of those things are already out there, right? So at the intermediate level, you want to have certification like CH. Whether you are technical or non-technical, you want to have CH, Certified Ethical Hacker. It is very, very important. It's by ISTI Council, right? You want to have cloud security certifications that will help you deepen your understanding about cloud environments and all that. And then at the advanced level, you're not talking about CISSP, CISM. You want to now go into CISO role, or you want to be any of the chief compliance, IT compliance. Maybe there are different, but they are all managerial roles anyway. So that is at the advanced level. So you need to chart a path, and this is how you start. This is how everybody, more often than not, this is how they start. One of the mistakes people make is to try to collect certifications without building that experience. Just gather everything and then go and bag a CISSP and then start looking for a job. Anybody seeing you having CISSP, you can actually even, take your time and read and pass it. But there are certain things that will show when you are asked certain kind of question, and it will now undermine the certification that you have. And that's why CISSP, for instance, you need to have 5 years of experience before they can now give you that, certification, even if you write and pass. So these things are very, very important. You must build capacity. All right. So just a quick pulse check again. Who here has already started studying for or completed any certification at any time? Have you completed at least one certification, one cybersecurity certification? Just drop it on the chat. Just say yes, 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 yes. If you have not, just say no, it's fine. All right, that's nice. Okay, what certification have you done? Can you just drop it on the chat? And you can just give me prefix or what certification you've done. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of yes. Computer Security Plus, wonderful. That's nice. None. Oh, fine. I see. Okay, that's nice. That's nice. Introduction to cybersecurity. That's fine. All right, that's great. Good to know. So let's move. Let's quickly move so I can just wrap up. Yeah. So hands-on experience and portfolio. At this point, we have talked about mindset, foundations, entry path, certifications. But this is where everything starts to either work or fall apart. For most people, entry-level employers are not just asking for what you studied. They are asking for, what can you do? How can you help us solve this problem that we have? So sometimes I might be looking for a role. You are a security operations analyst, but I'm looking for someone that is a security operations analyst that also has data analytics background, can do Power BI, can do presentations. So if it's going to be bringing out all those KRIs, all those key risk indicators that I see within my environment, I need someone that can be able to do some kind of analytics and give me some very nice PowerPoint presentation, and is able to just stick to say, just be I just want to be a security operations analyst. You might restrict yourself, right? So you need to have hands-on experience. Try and see what are these complementary so if I'm going to be a cybersecurity analyst, how do I complement it with something else that will give me an advantage? Very, very important. That is, we'll talk about something much later that speaks to this more deeply. So you need to have hands-on experience. We can't overflow this. A strong portfolio doesn't mean professional experience yet, but it means evidence of effort, curiosity, and practical skill. So let's even look at evidence, actually evidence of how deliberate you can be to build capacity. Let's look at that. Let's do a deep dive into that. One of the biggest challenges for people trying to enter into cybersecurity, which I keep saying, is how do I show I can do the work if I haven't had a job yet? One thing I thought of, and I still use it till today. I still have my lab, regardless of where I am. I have a lab, and that lab has Wazoo. Wazoo is a SIM. It is connected to an Active Directory. I have an Active Directory in that lab. It is also connected to a Linux server, and I also have Kali Linux pen testing. So two things. I have a red team on that lab. I have a blue team on that lab. I have Active Directory that does IAM, and I'm able to see the alerts when I try to do all those pen testing activities. I see it on the scene. So you can see how I've created a small CISO environment without much hassle. So somebody is asking me, how do I show that I have experience? What I just did now is to tell people that if I'm able to tell someone, this is what I've done, and these are the kind of activities I see, I will take you in a heartbeat, because you're an entry level. Remember, you're an entry level. And at that entry level, I'm not expecting to see too much. All I'm trying to see is somebody that will not just, once I throw into the ocean, you will not just drown. You will not see, hey, I'm seeing 100 alerts. What does this mean? Or I'm seeing an alert and I'm seeing privilege escalation. Or I'm seeing, you just cannot break it down. You can't swim because you've not tested yourself. You don't have those practical experiences. So you can have a lab. I just answered one of the questions maybe you might want to ask. You can have a lab. Now think of a lab from a pen testing standpoint. If you want to be a pen tester, that means that lab might want to speak to something like, okay, I want to have things like WhatsApp. I want to have Bob Suit in that lab, and I want to be able to test applications. I didn't say we should go and test applications that belong to organizations. My hand is not there. But basically, you can just test. You can test. You can have applications that you are within your own domain, and you can test them with WhatsApp and all that. If I'm looking for a pen test and you tell me you've used Bob Suit, you use WhatsApp, this is what you have done, and I ask you some very, very critical questions, are you able to answer me? You have the job at an entry level, easy. So those labs are very, very important. And those labs can be gotten from, you can go to, there are communities where these labs are shared. You also have, what they call it now, you have YouTube as well, that always is your friend when you need all these things. So lab is very, very, very key. Document what you've done. Put it on LinkedIn. Let it make noise about it. Let people see that, this is what I've done. And then that could be a simple lab write-up. And then how you're able to crack one very teething issue. Just put it on LinkedIn, right? Or in the community. And someone say, this guy is able to do this thing. This guy is good. Someone will just private chat to you. What are you doing? Are you okay? I don't have a job yet. I'm just, you mean you don't have a job with what you are doing? Before you know what, you can bear the job easy from those communities, and by posting and showing what you have done. So that could be just putting your lab together, what you've done within your lab environment. There are platforms like GitHub, which has made life easy for a lot of people. LinkedIn, like I just you've also mentioned. Another strong way to build skill is by engaging in all these capture the flag competitions. There are a lot of them, there are a lot of them. Try Hack Me, so many of them that do all these things, and it helps your experience. And you don't need to win. Yeah, I tried, but I failed. It didn't work. It seems like I don't understand. No, the learning process itself is what is important. That learning process, because the moment you try to start doing those things, there is something that is happening to you, but you might not know until you come to a point where somebody sees you and say, "Ah, isn't this guy?" I had an experience one day, when I started doing consulting, and then I was just, I've not even gotten a job yet. I've not even got to done my NYSC, but I've already started consulting, as a database administrator. And I was taking a class, and one guy that knew me very well said, "But wait, when did this guy gather all this experience?" It only took me 1 year sitting down with labs, build a lab at home, install a VMware suite, run my virtualization, install all my the image for this and that, for DB and that and that. And I'm testing different things. And then when I'm talking about it in class, I'm so, it's as if it's coming from what I've already done before. So experience can be built in that your small environment. Very, very key. Don't look down on it. It is so important. You don't need to win, right? Like I said, sometimes I do things that don't work. And I'm like, I try and try and try, and I just shut down the laptop and go to bed. And then when you win, you shout, and like people are like, "What's wrong with this one?" But you know what has happened to you. So you don't always win sometimes. Sometimes you set up something and it doesn't work. You try to test, do pen testing. It's not really coming out well. Maybe the packets you're trying to sniff and all that, yeah, it's not really coming out. The configurations you try to set up is not working the way you expected. It is fine, perfect. It is a learning curve for you, right? So understand what alerts look like. How are logs reviewed? How does an incident flow give hiring teams confidence that you won't completely be lost when they throw you into the depth of the water, right? How? And that comes when, for instance, like I said, in my lab, I have a defense team. The defense team has a team. I have a pen testing team. That's the Kali Linux. So when I do some tests, I try to go to the team to see the logs and say, okay, what does this log mean? So by the time you are implementing this kind of thing, you're already learning incident response. You know when you see something, the things to do. You can also look at an incident response plan from a GR standpoint and know what it means, what I need to do. Finally, cloud security skills are increasingly important. Like I mean, it can never be overemphasized. A lot of environments rely on AWS and Azure, and you have a lot of resources, database, Kubernetes, and resources that are there, DevOps environments and stuff like that, build environments where you have your CI/CD pipeline and all those things. They are there. Without having this, going through this rigor of learning, you will not know anything. If you like write certification, you will still not know, right? The key thing is to remember is that portfolio does not have to be perfect or advanced. It needs just to, show effort, consistency, and progression. Remember this: effort, consistency, and progression. Very, very important. So when recruiters organizations see you, hiring managers can, look at that tangible experience. That is what they are looking for. They are not looking for someone that is ready-made, because obviously you are not looking for intermediate or an experienced role, right? Almost rounding up. At this point, many people would have built some skills, earned certifications, and then yet they still struggle to break into the field. Very often, I've seen people say, "How do I even get a job? I've done everything. I've met my friends." The first step is optimizing your profile. A friend of mine, he has IT support experience, and I've been watching him for a while. He was actually my church member, so he has about 6 or 7 certifications in networking. Science, what's this certification again? CSE, um, all of them like that. Most of them are networking related. I'm like, okay, you have all these certifications. But when I look at his CV, I'm like, I will never employ you with this CV. Nobody will employ you with this CV. And he was like, but how will you do it? Your CV must be able to tell me what you have done. Your CV cannot be telling me you are a support staff in so and so place. What does, and so how is it related to the certification I've written? It must make sense. I must be able to see the reason why I need to call you for an interview. You might be competent, but if your CV is not structured correctly, nobody will call you for any interview. Just know it and know peace, as my colleague will always say, So you need to understand this. Highlight relevant certifications that you've achieved, hands-on projects, lab work, your specific interest in cybersecurity roles, and then hiring managers are able to understand where to place you. Many of the time, they use algorithms on LinkedIn to find out we're looking for a particular role. So your CV must be tailored enough to be able to say, this is where this person's skill set is. I am an identity and access management person. I am a security engineer. So as a security engineer, I expect that you know this. So your CV is tailored to that. Not I am identity and access, I am this, and everything is just all over the place. It cannot, nobody can see it and be able to, say this is what you are. This is the domain you are actually focusing on, right? So highlight those relevant certifications. And then the next step is to actively engage in cybersecurity committees or a community. Isaka is there. I see already some people, are already in that space. OAPS is there. And not just, about membership. Get the actual exposure. By participating in these discussions, and attending their sessions from time to time, you learn how professionals speak about the real world issues. Sometimes you're just in one engagement. Trust me, you can be lost when they are discussing some things. Maybe they are talking about something that happened in one bank and you are looking at how it can affect you. And you can be so lost that you don't even know what to say. Just listen. Trust me, you are learning something by that. There was a time I was thrown into the depth of the sea. That's what I would call it, in my early days. And I had to sit with a cross-functional, I was in a cross-functional engagement where we were looking at things from the technology side, from business side, from the core banking side. So many things were involved, and we had to analyze and we had to take a decision. And I was hearing so many jargons from different technology teams. Trust me, you don't have to know everything. You don't have to. I felt insecure in that meeting. I won't lie. But what I did was to take notes on all the things I've heard, and then went back to know what they mean, and so that when I'm engaging next time, I now know how to fit in. Nobody can intimidate me with anything technical to a very large extent now because of how curiosity drove me to learning and to know. If you tell me that this thing I can't teach you, you are telling me that means I must learn it. That's how I see it. That is kind of mindset you need to have, and we talked about that earlier. We also attend webinars, conferences, virtual meetings. These are very, very important. These environments will expose you to current trends, practical challenges, sometimes even understanding opportunities that, you might take advantage of. Networking here isn't just about asking for jobs. It's about telling people what I have done, getting familiar, building that familiarity and learning how industries work. How do they work? What does it, how do they go about their recruitment process? What do they even do? Sometimes you might just bring a write-up that speaks to, I've seen someone that talked about, provided a solution to an organization, and one of the staff of that company he had to private chat him and ask him some questions, and then from there he was employed just by providing a solution, unknowingly to him. That was the solution to that company. So applying strategically means targeting entry-level roles that align with your chosen path, and is tailored to your CV is tailored to show relevant skills. Please, there are some things that should not be in your CV. You can't say you're a teacher, and inside that teaching, you have certifications, and then you submit it to me. for me to, it can, nobody will look at it. What is the business of a teacher and certifications? So please, you need to understand how to tailor your CV. I'm sure Wale has done a good job in posting some people that have maybe talked about this area. It is so important. I didn't finish what I said about the guy I talked about. The guy eventually bagged. He restructured his. I helped him to restructure his CV, and by the time he did that, he had about 4 or 5 interviews within that year. He has never had one, but he had 4 or 5 interviews on the road, because I had to tailor his CV to show he has the experience. He has a lot of experience, and these are things he has built. Because remember that he's coming from an environment that was a support person, but he has his certifications. But he has done things. He has a lot of labs, projects that he has handled, and he didn't put any of them in his CV. He was not even able to tailor it and show strength. There are other things like working freelance. You might think you're not collecting money, and this is for very young people like Gen Zs. Sorry, I'm calling Gen Zs here, but it's important. The reason I'm mentioning this is that sometimes you might need to do freelance. That freelance is just to connect you to an environment that will help you project that skill set that you have. Trust me, I'm telling you from what I already know and how people have been able to move into and then get a job. By freelance, the person that you're working for will eventually see the reason why you need to pay you. Before then, it's already too late. Somebody else will call you and then give you a better, job from there. So when networking and applications are done, intentionally, skills and portfolios start to, speak for themselves. And that's when momentum builds. All right. So closing, let's look at closing roadmap and then maybe global perspective. We've covered a lot of ground so far, from mindset, foundations to entry path, certification handling, hands-on experience, how to position yourself for opportunities. At this point, the challenge isn't lack of information. It is turning the information into a clear, realistic plan. So this final session is going to be about pulling everything together. I want to leave you with a simple roadmap that you can follow step by step, and then it can also help you to build a global perspective, and then also understand how to position yourself regardless of wherever you are, wherever part of the world you may be in, right? So as we start to bring this session to close, I want to leave you with a very simple, important principle. The first is about the mindset and learning. Curiosity and lifelong learning. These are not optional. You must be ready to learn, unlearn, relearn. Some people even need to reinvent themselves. Now, reinventing yourself will be you coming from a role that is maybe legal, you're a legal person, and then you're moving to cybersecurity. Or you're coming from accountants, you're an accountant, and you're coming into cybersecurity, right? Or even an engineering function that has nothing to do with, computer science or something, or computer engineering, right? Or even electrical engineering. But you're coming into cybersecurity. You must be ready to unlearn. You need to understand that some things you need to just move away and then start building new perspective. You need to you need to reinvent yourself. You need to have that curiosity and then learn. Just subject yourself to learning, right? As you learn, you get to know more and more, you get to improve yourself. The second is build skills and experience, network, and job strategy. Very important. I never knew how important networking was until I started building one. I built a network to the point where even while I was working, I always get opportunities. There's an opportunity. Are you interested? No, I'm not. So it then become more and more strategic as you go higher in your role. You want to be very, very strategic. You just don't want to just jump into any company. I don't know whether to say this here, but I've seen people that have jumped into some companies that they were eventually sacked. Why? Because they didn't do a thorough check. Find out about the company. What kind of company is even this one? How strong are they? Look at the business model. Find out, have they been subjected to any kind of attack in the past? Just do your research. Unknowingly to him, he entered the company that They already had vulnerabilities across all their servers, and then they had a ransomware attack. And the role he was in was the role of a, I think, lead network and database, application and database security. Nothing. I mean, he had no business with the ransomware attack, but he was sacked. Why? Because of not being strategic. Looking for jobs strategically is very important. You don't just, yes, you have the day that they are offering you a role. You also need to look at the company you're going into. How well are they able to take care of your lifelong goal to build yourself up? And remember that first and foremost, you want to be valuable. You want to provide value to the organization. And then you also want to be rewarded and be able to take care of yourself. So all these things come together, right? Lastly, you need to build consistency over intensity. You just have to be consistent. You don't need to do everything at once or burn out trying to learn everything, in a few weeks. Some people just put together one program and then in 1 week they want to finish, 5 different domains. And at the end of the 6th domain, when you ask them questions, there's no one they can even remember because you will just not that. You just need to be consistent. Just take it notch by notch, notch by notch. So if you can, stay focused, build these skills, position yourself strategically, and work consistently, you will give yourself a very, very fair chance, a real chance of succeeding in this cybersecurity field. And with this mindset, let's look at the simple roadmap that I put here. This roadmap is just very simple. 1 to 3 months, what do I need to do? You need to build IT fundamentals, networking basics, Linux, Windows. Now, this is across whether you are GRC, non-technical roles, or you want to go into technical roles like maybe pen testing, cyber defense, incident response, cloud security, whatever it is, you need this experience. You need to get your hand dirty. You need to set up a lab, right? Have a lab. Second part is your 4 to 6 months. You're looking at security fundamentals, security plus basics, and then start setting up a lab. Trust me, if you want to set up a lab from scratch, start to finish, gone are the days when if I had to set up a lab, for instance, if I want to install Wazoo, I have to install Elastic, I have to install Kibana. There are so many things, that I need to install. But now it's just one simple image. Slam it, username, password, login. You already have the Wazoo. So it's now easier than before. So setting up a lab now is so easy. AI is your best friend. AI has done so many things for a lot of people. You can use AI to just ask AI, I want to set up a lab and I want the lab to have this. It will tell you everything you need to know step by step, and you can build your lab and then start building capacity. So AI has made life so easy for people to learn cybersecurity, even in it. And then you have YouTube. A lot of people have solved a lot of problems, like I said. There are a lot of security plus training from scratch to finish that you can just go there and learn, and then go and write your exam, and then you obviously do well, right? And then you need to move to 7 to 9. That's your month, 7 to 9, where you now start looking at soft skills, STEAM, exposure, CTFs, and then home labs, if you have mentioned. Set up your lab and then do more things within that environment. So stage 2, you want to look at your security fundamentals, security plus, understand the basics. What does it mean? Go to YouTube, listen to so many people that have talked about security plus, talked about, setting up a lab, look at security fundamentals. Easy, just learn. Don't be carried away with so many things. This one is drawing you here. There's identity and access management. It's so interesting. Come now, let's do this one. Somebody else is drawing you there. Security engineering is moving. Just be focused. Be focused, right? This stage 4, month 10 to 12, you start an internship. There are a lot of internship roles that come up here and there. Junior roles, SOC analyst entry, and then after the internship, they now make you permanent. There are a lot of that. And then once you start seeing all those capabilities, my organization have done something. I've done that quite a number of times, and a lot of other organizations do the same, right? So your stage 4 is looking at 10 to 12, where you are now looking at internship. You build capacity. You have a lot of projects that you have done a lot of things on GitHub and stuff like that. Then your stage 5, you want to now be looking at building a portfolio, documenting what you have done, learning and networking. Now, it's not about what you know. It's about selling yourself, networking to people. I have this, I've done this. You can now start providing context, training, projects that you've done, what you've solved, what you've learned. Put it on LinkedIn. Make noise about it. The only way to make people know that you know is to make noise about what you know. Very, very important, right? All right. And then I'm looking at, I put Nigeria to global opportunities, right? Because I'm currently in Nigeria, but I know that a lot of us are in UK, Canada, and different parts of the world, and Africa, Ghana, Ethiopia, wherever you're actually connecting from. It's a global stage for everybody, and is as competitive as it can be. So I want to end this session by addressing something that often is left unsaid: location. Many people assume that where they are determines what opportunities they can access. That's not true. In cybersecurity, the assumption is becoming less true and true and true every single day. There are roles that people they are looking for people that are skilled. I need someone that is skilled in this area, and they employ you and you start a remote job. I have friends that have been working remote all their lives. They've not moved away from where they are, not for one day. So those roles are there. And then the challenge is there's something else that people face. You apply once, they call you, you get to the last stage, but it didn't go further than that. They told you that, man, you are good, but we got somebody else the person has something else that you do not have. Please move on. You will just keep applying. The truth about the matter is the more you apply, the more you get better and better in handling interviews. Now, if you are not getting to the interview stage, you need to look at your CV. We need to look at those things that LinkedIn has put question mark for you to go and deal with that you have not dealt with. So it is, going to CV we'll be talking something for a conversation for another day. With that right skill set and mindset, remote roles and global companies are accessible. Organizations can call you up once they know that you have the right skill set. All right. Organizations care about whether you can protect systems, assess risks, respond to incidents, and communicate clearly without ambiguity, not just where you are based, right? They want to know that you are someone that is of interest. Now, however, competing globally means presenting yourself at a global standard. So it means that you need to separate yourself. I had to do a master's in information security and digital forensics in East London more recently because I was looking for something different. Something I needed. Now, a lot of people have this, but not a lot actually have this. So it's important for you to note these things. You need to separate yourself from competition. You need to understand that if they're going to bring a role and they need 5 people, in that 5, I'm going to be number 1. You need to think like that. So because you are presenting yourself at a global standard, you need to have strong LinkedIn presence. I can't keep overemphasizing this. Sometimes I go to some LinkedIn handle and I see what they put out there, and I'm like, and you keep complaining that nobody has called you for a role. They can't call you because the algorithm they are using to check can't even see you as someone that is a likely applicant that they can call on, because nothing speaks to the role they are looking for. Even though it looks as if you're applying for you are applying for that role or you are prospecting for that role. So another critical factor is communication. Technical skills are important, but so is also the ability to explain issues clearly. This is one problem that you have trying to bring technicalities to the understanding of management, because remember that at the end of the day, the business you are going to be reporting to, the owners of the business want to know what is going on. You can't be telling them that you ran this bash command and this is the output. Nobody's interested in that one. You want to be able to interpret your conversations clearly in the language, in a business language, in language that they understand. So cybersecurity is a team sport, and strong communication builds trust quickly. You need to have that. Communication is key. You need to understand how to work with teams, how to collaborate with people, and all that bit. So finally, you need to have open source projects. We talked about the hands-on labs and all that. And at this point, I would say if you focus on building capability, documenting progress, and positioning yourself clearly, global opportunities will become possible and increasing. You will be most likely looked at and considered for an interview once you position yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chibuzo. You really dealt with this topic and provided a good roadmap for anyone who would like to take the next step tomorrow. Thanks. This can be more practical than what you have explained. And I just want to check if there's any question, so that we can at least have you answer specific question that you may have, or ask specific question you may have, and then we can wrap up the session in about 1 minute more. Yeah, 1 minute. We shouldn't be more than 5 minutes. In 4 minutes, we should be all over. If it's any question, you can drop it in the chat and I will pick it up. Just let me share my screen and see what I have left on my slides. I mentioned that we will be having a domain-specific training from February, and I'm working on the advert, on the flyer to call for applicants in case you you haven't seen it, so you don't know what it is, but it's domain-specific. It means that you need some experience or some kind of desire that we can see so that you can apply. It's going to be an 8-week course. So today is our second edition for 2026. We'll be having our next chat on the 31st of January. It's also another very good conversation with a great guy. We worked together in my past life and invited him to come share as Chibuzo shared with us today. So I think that's the end of our session today. Thank you so much, Chibuzo. I appreciate your time. And I also heard that Nigeria won. Congratulations. So I know that some people actually left the match. I was watching the match before, so I left the match, but I got to know that Nigeria won their 3rd place match. All right, let me see the chat. I don't think there's any question in the chat. I guess that your explanation was clear and on point. This recording will be uploaded on the on YouTube by tomorrow. So Monday, you should be able to catch up with, if you want to spend more time to listen to it. Just before we go, Cybersecurity Mentoring Group is a platform where we share, we learn, and we connect. We invite professionals that can share experience with us. And I was glad when Chibuzo shared his own experience about not being the traditional technical guy, moving from estate management to cybersecurity. And actually, he painted how he went about that journey. And I hope you got something in case you are thinking, I am disadvantaged because of my background, right? He has painted how you can get into cybersecurity by following some practical steps that he has shared. Chibuzo, you were sharing about what it would take for you to build a lab in those days. I remember then you would have to install and install and install. But today, it is just an image, and you have everything that you need to be able to work. So thank you so much for sharing this practical thoughts, and I hope that people can pick them up later and get the best out of it, and also prosper in their cybersecurity journey. Thanks everyone for joining, and it is bye from me for now. Thank you.